other player, and here we are all loaded in, and in the top left-hand side, it is Zest.
He faces off against the blue Terran player in the southeast. He is Clem. Reppin' TL.
Hells yeah.
They came out with some good swag this year. Not gonna lie.
They really did, yeah.
I'm gonna throw a soft plug for my homies at Team Liquid on that. I follow some of their designers because they post some interesting stuff, and man, they've made some absolutely dope swag. And,
they really do. And yeah, you can't give enough love to Team Liquid, right? It's a team that spawned in StarCraft, now one of the most prominent esports teams anywhere, and they're really doing a lot to further, I don't want to sound too cheesy saying further esports, but like kind of they're trailblazers in many ways. And yeah, in the fashion area, they have some swag for sure.
You can't move the train without laying tracks first, cats.
Exactly.
It's very important. And these guys might yeah, I don't know any inside joke names for people who lay railroad tracks, but they have set that path for others to follow upon. Hell yeah. Probe Scout comes in, Probe Scout goes out. Can't explain that. Cybercore first on top of the Reaper Cliff in the main base, so not anything greedy out of Zest here. He wants to have his potential to have his unit out on the map nice and early, and it's still wild to think that it only took like what, like one hot streak out of parting to completely change how people open in PvT forever. That still fascinates me.
Yes, indeed, and it's very likely that we see a blink opening indeed, as it's gonna be one of the best defensive openers. It allows you to get some map control. It allows you to secure your expansion easily. That said, it's gonna be an adept to start off from Zest. So more likely that we see something like Stargate transition or something of the sorts.
Yeah, and there is the adept now done. Gonna immediately send the shade out. Reaper is checking for proxies. It's a big map, Death Aura, and there's a decent amount, a couple spots to try and hide things, since that direct path is so straightforward, right? Especially in the later stage when you knock down those rocks. But there's a couple of extra barracks going up about as fast as they possibly could for Clem, huh, cats?
Yeah, so this is going to be definitely like a little bit of a push on the side of Clem. At the same time, Zest started as Stalker and actually is going for the Twilight Archives as well as a Robo. Could this be something like Dark Templar, or are we just getting the Robo as support to a Blink Stalker build, do you think, Nate?
It's almost, it really could be both still at this point. Like, it's so hard to tell. There's no fast third gas or anything like that. And when you want to go DTs, gas can become a thing, but the Warp Prism is just minerals, right? Albeit a lot of minerals. So there's different ways to leverage it. He just won't be able to build much else other than that. Yeah, okay, so he's going to have to save his gas for the time being, so we won't see him. It'll be a little bit less likely to crank out a ton of units, but I don't mind seeing this at all, right? You have great amounts of airspace that can't be reached by ground units, and this just gives you fantastic map control against a Terran player who wants to move out, because I mean, if you're opening with 2 command centers, you're not going to be rich in scans, and that makes those Dark Templar even more terrifying.
Yeah, interesting choices on the side of Zest as well, going for that Stalker second, but the Robo revealed at the front should give Clem a good idea for what the range of what this can be, and very often with a Robo this early, it will be DTs on the proto side of things, right? Because it's forcing scans, or even just testing whether your opponent has scans, or even just containing your Terran opponent by them knowing that you have DTs at all, can be really useful. And we already see how consistent Zest is with that plan, as he takes a fairly fast third behind.
Yeah, and I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the orbital command energy for Clem, because it is possible that he still thinks that it was, yeah, sure, maybe a fast Robo, but the Cybercore was first too. So you have some level of expectation that the next tech comes faster, but it could have just been an observer, right, while he was getting Blink. Instead, it's 3DTs. Engineering bays only just began, and he does have energy for a scan in the natural, but if a DT can get inside of the main base and he can start to split this up using that Prism, I don't think he has enough scans to cover everything. So the scan gets used where there's 1 DT as 2 step in to the main base, and I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't try to go for that tech lab either. Didn't want to risk it. Just wants to kill SCVs.
Yeah, this is looking all too good for Zest, right? Clem is gonna take advantage. He says, okay, you have no weapons. Actually, gets rid of the pylon. That means only 1 DT available to warp in instead of 3 for the next wave. Very good job from Clem identifying what he can and cannot do. And with this, I mean, this bio is gonna have free reign on the natural to somewhat equalize things. At the same time, he has to kind of defend back at home. He has pulled back to his natural base where there is a turret available now. And man, I mean, this is looking good for Clem.
Yeah, he's killed damn near every probe in that natural, and now 15 total workers for Zest against 24 SCVs. It's catastrophic is what it is. He was thankfully able to barely repower one of the gateways in the natural for just a millisecond, and he used that time to get the second DT in. And if he had only had just 1 DT to defend that, I think there's not really much you can do at all. Yeah. But at this point, if you're Clem and you've killed that many workers, you're going to play this a little more conservatively, get the turret, and you want to mule, but it's going to be real hard to leave your base if you do that. So I do expect him to keep the energy on the command centers. He hasn't taken a third himself. Yeah. So this is a big opportunity for Zest, because Clem he's going to try to throw another punch at him and hope to knock him out on this one. But if Zest keeps up the pressure, then yeah, this doesn't get any easier. 3 Marines versus 3 DTs, like, yeah, okay, he's ranged, but if they get close, they still, they're not dying that fast.
Yeah, it's a very interesting decision from Clem because he has the advantage. I think he should be able to identify that he has the advantage and cut down on the risks, but it's gonna pay off, it seems. I mean, these DTs have not found enough damage. In fact, they will find very little damage and it will all burn down, and Zest will be forced to GG to the next attack. What an interesting situation that was unfolding there before our eyes, Nate, because what happened was Clem was moving out and already more than halfway through the map when Zest was doing his DT warpins, and that was all 3 warpins available. So it was a good decision by Clem, not only to keep going, but push on the gas pedal and kind of get in there as quickly as possible before the next round of warpins. And not only that, but takes down the Artosis pylon that was powering 2 of the gateways. And with that, just 1 DT to defend was not enough for Zest to just take too much damage.
Yeah, builds like that are fun, as we're going to go to Pillars of Gold for the next game. Builds like that are a lot of fun to see, especially like when we get to cast in a tournament and you're like, oh my god, like he's going DTs, he's not even going for medevacs with his stem attack, right? And you're like, all of the normal things that are supposed to be happening in a game of StarCraft suddenly aren't, and you're like, well, the Protoss lost more workers, but he's got a 3rd Nexus in DTs, which should do the trick, right? And Clem's like, no, I saved up enough energy to walk across the map and kill you. And that's exactly what he did. Losing the Prism in 3 DTs obviously did no favors for Zest either.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even have energy aggressively, right? It's just that Zest used all those weapons and then Clem capitalized on it, really. And it was, I mean, it was a really bizarre game because both armies also missed each other and in a very peculiar way where both are kind of ready to attack each other at the same time without either knowing, right? So yeah, mayhem and chaos. Clem's gonna come out on top of it. So Pillars of Gold, though, I liked the position by Zest. I was feeling good about it too. Could he, if he had seen that move out, I think he held CC.
Well, it hits at such a weird timing, right? If you practice, normal practice will not take into account a Terran player skipping, right, factory and starport. That's just not a normal thing to have happen. But if you skip those things, you can make your first push earlier. And this guy learned about that the hard way. In the top right, the red Protoss player, he is Zest.
Yeah. Bottom left-hand side of the map, it is Liquid's Clem. He is mighty. All right. Yeah, I actually like that kind of build quite a bit, Nate. Not just as much as the double cyclones, but with the proxy barracks, yeah, that's kind of my jam actually. I love it.
The ghost pepper cheese. That's what the 1 base double factory cyclone rush.
Yeah,
we've got patent on it. All right.
Yeah,
we're gonna license it out to you. 50 minerals per cyclone. Okay, that's the type.
I have a variation on it, Nate. It's weird, okay, but I go 2 gas after the supply depot. I make supply depot, then double gas, and then barracks. And then it lines up perfectly to where I can drop 2 factories exactly as my barracks finishes. I can start both tech labs on the factory, so I make them both at home, obviously. So I want my cyclone synced up. What I proxy is the barracks, and I make a Reaper just to keep my opponent at bay. And then pump out cyclones, and then I get a 2 cyclone timing, and then a 4 cyclone with upgrade timing.
See, that still times out similarly, but the idea of building 2 refineries, both of them, before I start my barracks, I don't think I've ever done that without immediately leaving the game.
Try it. It's nifty. I promise, Nate.
All right, we'll see. We'll see if it infringes. Okay, you'll be hearing from my lawyers, Paolo.
Cool. I wanna. All right, so that's how I found out I found out that TY does that proxy factory build. I showed my build to Kelleser, and he was like, "Oh, it's similar to the TY, like with the proxy factory." I was like, "Oh, I have no idea." But yeah, the gas timings are definitely weird. All right, we have a Reaper here.
It ain't cheap. It ain't cheap doing meme builds, ladies and gentlemen. When you're on the frontier, you run into wild beasts. Okay, it happens. It happens. And he's got the bunker going up at the natural, not tucked super close to the command center, but because Pillars of Gold is one of those few maps that still gives you a ramp going into the natural, it's a little bit more defensible. You're not worried about the same kinds of attacks that you would get on a map where there's just a flat, even ground in front of that base, and tries to jump the Adept with that high ground vision.
Ooh. He'll actually go inside and maybe at least find one SCV. That SCV maybe could have gone into the gas to try to save himself. Instead, it'll go down. A good scout, but actually does get a second SCV for his travels, and not a bad start for Zest.
Yeah, I don't think you can be super upset with that. You got a Marine and 2 SCVs, and you got to see everything. Like, obviously, you don't want to lose units, but if you're going to lose something, an Adept for all of that information, peace of mind, right? Knowing you're not being proxied, etc. All of those things have a value to them that I'm sure Zest is going to take into account, because his build is going to be happy that he doesn't have to worry, quote unquote, because he's doing something spicy himself again, cats. It's going to be Warp Prism, but he's got a Robo Bay, which can only mean that we're going to have either a Colossus drop or Disruptor drop, both of which sign me up. Let's go. Give me a tier 3 sub to that. Let's go.
Yes, indeed. And it's going to be a Hellion drop, it looks like, on the side of Clem, which is kind of counterintuitive, right? Because Zest did scout and sees the factory without any add-ons, and the barracks actually with the add-ons. Okay, it's actually going to be a Marine drop with a Hellion poke. I'm not a huge fan of the Hellion poke on a map like this for the ramp that you were mentioning, Nate. But we'll see if the Marine drop can find anything. It's a 5 Marine drop. It's a weird one.
We have the fake Oracle coming in, and I don't think he got a reaction at all out of Clem for that. That's good. You never want to the accidental was like you pull your SCVs away from it, and then it poofs into smoke, and you're like, damn it, just lost 100 minerals there, pulling all my workers away for a second.
I'm interested in the natural. That's where the real damage might happen. This drop is almost inconsequential. It's going to be a little bit of a wash, but here come the Hellions, and there is a little bit of a pseudo wall up, but it's not going to be enough. Only one Adept holding the door, and I mean, Clem has played his opponent perfectly here. There's 3 Hellions actually finding already 9 probes worth of damage. The medevac in the main has been cleared, but it was always a diversion. So scratch everything I said. I love Hellions, Nate. If you can trick your opponent into putting all of their units in their main.
Yeah, this has made things so weird now, because he actually built a Viking preemptively before he knew, right, 100% about what was going on, and he's building a second one. So there is a decent anti-air kind of zone control. I'm not going to say he can chase down the Prism, because A, the Prism is fast, and B, there are stalkers under it. So it's not going to be a cut and dry type thing. Zest can actually make a real attack with this Colossus drop, and that looks like what he wants to do. He's actually going for it. He's elevatoring in the stalkers behind his Colossi.
Yeah, unfortunately for Zest, he had to delay that a little bit because the tank was in range of that first Colossus, but now he's getting to ferry all of his units in, and the Vikings of Zest really not having much of a say, though these tanks are, and the Colossus is extremely low. I think Zest might have to abandon this position, maybe just siege a little bit of the mineral line and force those tanks to slowly come and encroach on further. I would love a recall. There we go. That's good.
Yeah, that's nice. Hey, man, the thing is,
I don't know what this though.
Terran versus Protoss is weird though, right? Like there's kind of an economy dynamic that we expect where the Protoss is supposed to be able to use all that chrono boost to get themselves pretty far ahead in workers. Like you expect to see about 7-8 worker difference, which is where we're at now. But how did we get here, Paolo, is a perhaps more important question. And it was a pretty huge, devastating attack that Zest took, right? Losing 10 probes while he was trying to make that move out. That brought things a little bit too close for comfort. But perhaps more importantly, great grab, that medevac. Okay, well, that makes things a lot better for Zest. But as I say, more importantly, Zest's third was only just started while Clem's third command center has been done for a hot minute in his natural expansion. So you're kind of expecting, when you're looking at like a professional TVP, the Terran tries to bring that pressure. If they derail the toss, usually they kill them with the first big move out. But in this case, it's a bit weird, right? Because he went back across the map. He killed a bunch of Terran workers, but he still has that third command center done at a really nice time. Just, does Clem feel comfortable actually trying to take that third early on? And I think Survey says no. He's playing this one close to the chest. He's being smart about it, and he is about to get hit with something else because we got DTs warping under that prism.
Yeah, unfortunately, they might have been spotted. Maybe not. It's difficult to say. But these DTs are gonna do a great job of keeping Zest a little bit
only
safer
one.
Even. Yeah, only one. There's no turret though. Is there scans available right now? I'm not even sure that there is, and the DT going right after the turret. There's another one in the natural, however, but the next scan comes in just in time. Still, now Clem is kind of just, he's trapped, right? Like he can't leave his base for a little while. This DT is gonna continue to be annoying. Perfect timing here. Yeah,
could not be better. Yeah, the exact frame that scan ends. There's no turret under construction, so the DT comes back in. He's hacking and whacking and smacking. 7 SCVs killed, and now Zest has a phenomenal economic lead.
And look at this. He's just gonna block the CC from landing, and I mean that's where the next scan would come from, is that CC. So now the next DT has free reign to go into the natural again. Though this turret will complete the DT, acknowledges that and leaves. Beautiful moves.
Wow. Yeah, okay. This is turned into a pretty fun match of StarCraft. I can't lie, cats. This one got zesty indeed.
Yes, indeed, and that is to Zest's credit. Yeah, it was a disastrous start for him in this game, but then capitalizing, right? Saying, okay, you just used all those Hellions aggressively. They're no longer a part of your army, nor is the medevac that I cleaned up. So gathers all of his forces and does a very nice counterattack. And on the back of picking off that medevac, not only is he back, but after the DTs, I'd say he's well ahead. Clem moving out with a large force, Nate, and I'm surprised that Zest doesn't have DTs to meet him in the middle of the map. He's conceding a lot of ground here.
Yeah, he's kind of transitioned more into this heavy. He's got a lot of charge lots with this army. He's going into attack upgrades, which is a little bit unusual, but he's hoping to get the jump on this, I suppose, and just knock it straight down. But the SCVs, so the first shot from the Colossus, the lone Colossus from earlier in this game, picking that off is fantastic, but he's about to get hit from the north and the south. Tragically, Claire is not here to call this moment as the Zealots sandwich that army, and Zest takes game number 2.
Yeah, beautiful game from Zest. And also, I mean, that was never even close, right? Like Clem, actually, I was checking and he didn't have any scans available. So worst comes to worst, maybe the third gets sieged for a little while, but Zest would have always cleaned that up. Beautiful flank. In spite of losing that Colossus, he didn't need it at all. And a comfortable game. That's actually unfair. That was a crazy game too, but Zest takes in the end.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you kind of said it. You kind of said it, all of it, right? I think the biggest thing that happened there was he baited all those scans too. Just the economy derailed it, did so much damage. But guys, we're gonna go to a quick break. When we return, game number 3 here at the DreamHack Masters. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the DreamHack Masters StarCraft 2 Last Chance Tournament. I'm Nathaniel, joined by Cats. We're going into game number 3 of what has been an exciting and a little bit cheesy. You could say it's got some stank to it, Cats. Bit of a cheesy Terran versus Protoss here.
Yeah, nothing too unexpected. I mean, Terrans do love their timings in this matchup. I find from the Protoss side, it's one of the harder things to hold is just unpredictable Terrans that attack you with, you know, big chunks of units of 2 base or something like that before transitioning. So I think we're seeing a lot of that from Clem, identifying that trend too. But Zest has been spicy, and DTs I think is one of the better ways to deal with that type of attack. So we'll see what happens. I think Zest will he's likely to go DTs again, perhaps. It's been working out well for him. But only time will tell, as in the top left-hand side of Romanticide, it is Clem.
He faces off against the red Protoss player in the southeast from Rye Gaming. He is Zest.
Hells yeah. Props to Rye Gaming, of course, for picking up Zest.
Yeah. And put a little cheese on that rye bread, maybe, Paolo.
Oh, hells yeah.
Because we've had, I mean, I was gonna say, you talk about Terran timings, but let's not completely absolve Clem of what he did in the first game, because he went straight 3 racks with nothing else behind it, trying to do this crazy fast bio push, which did end up weirdly working because he didn't burn all of his energy before the DTs arrived, and that bailed him out a little bit. But the engineering bay block here, I think everything that I've seen about this over the last year and a half in competitive TVP has been the eBay block. They want you to build the Nexus at a 3rd. They want you to build the Nexus somewhere that they can run Hellions, so that you can't easily just wall off and say, no, you can't come in here. So I'm interested to see if he's going to get a quick reactor after this Marine, how fast he goes for the Expo, or if it's going to be like he's just faking him out and he's going to do something else.
Yeah, we'll see indeed. I mean, there is a Zealot being promptly made for Zest, but one cool thing about this eBay is actually that Zest didn't even scout with the SCV. He just instantly blocked. There was a pylon on the low ground being made sure, and that was all the information that he needed. So the eBay is very, very far along, and it's actually gonna delay the Nexus from Zest quite a bit. So Zest chrono boosting instead 2 Adepts and starting his Warp Gate, saturating both of his gases back at home. And it's, you know, he's not gonna be floating any money when he takes the Nexus, but it's still gonna be an annoyance, no doubt.
Yeah, you never. I feel like nobody. Well, I guess I can't say that. I want to say nobody likes it when their base gets delayed, but then I remember that people like you and Bly exist. Well, you know, sometimes it's you know, there's a reason why they get you, why they let you block their bases sometimes, perhaps, is maybe the more appropriate way to say it.
Yeah, and Zest is definitely the type of player that will adapt to this sort of situation, because he is a kind of a cheesy player when he needs to be, right? Like, he has been around for so long, he really can do it all. He is known for his micro, not so much for his macro. So we'll see what he does here. I mean, there is a Phoenix already in production. This is particularly good, Nate. I'm sure you know if the Terran was opening Cyclones, which he's not. So yeah, what do you think? It looks like he's gonna save him for now. He's not gonna scout with the first one. Oh, or is he?
Yeah, it is weird, right? Because he wanted to try and make the base get blocked off, but then, you know, we get the old proxy starport, which is now as much of a standard build as anything else. But weirdly enough, the Medevac doesn't get bursted down by the Phoenix that quickly, right? So it's more about lifting the Hellions to keep them away from the probes. And he comes straight over to this natural, but he delayed the natural so much. There's no workers here. So he kind of, I mean, congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm gonna give him the old slippery do there, and
okay, he might have something for his troubles anyway. The shield battery overcharge is gonna go up, but it's still enough from these Hellions should they sink their shots to one-shot probes. So they're gonna get 5, which is more than I thought they would get. Still not enough, I think, for Clem to be happy with this opener.
You know, yeah, that was terrible in a way, but 5 probe kills, considering how that whole awkward thing started, is You know, it's like you realize at the last second that you need to eject, but you're like, I can't. So you're like, okay, at least I killed 5 probes before I died. Like, you know, it's something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not the goal. That's right. Not the design of this opener. But if we look at the worker count, I don't think that Clem can be complaining just yet if he doesn't take damage from this. But
Zest he's going for it, perhaps. Okay. That got scary for a second, but like I was saying, the Phoenixes are very, very strong against Cyclones, especially considering that these Marines are not gonna have stim, are not gonna have combat shields, right? So with Adepts against Marines and Phoenix for the Cyclones, or just for harassing, I think Zest is in a fantastic position in this game to start things off. It could even be better if it wasn't for that last second decision of Clem to identify, okay, Zest should be moving his Adepts to intercept my Hellions on the other side. I'm gonna move back in and kill whatever I can. And he gets 5 probes. Like I said, it wasn't enough. Like you said, it's terrible perhaps. It's something to work with, but still Zest very much so in the driver's seat.
Yeah, well, he's only up a couple of workers. I think that's worth noting, just because the typical gap is supposed to be a little bit more. So I don't think that this is by any means like an irreparable ship for Clem to try and to repair and get back out onto the waters, because he wants to push. He's still going to go for that. It's not like Zest was able to get up to some really fast tech during that. It cost something for him to get those Phoenix out. Chrono boosting Phoenix is one of the most expensive productions of a unit in StarCraft 2, because, hey, they build fast, but they are mega expensive. And perhaps that's why this attack might end up being a little bit more scary than it should be, just because there's not really a lot of firepower here. But that ramp and the potential of getting force fielded has to be something that Clem's worried about.
Yeah, daring Cyclones as well in the front could have been exposed to those Phoenixes. A lot of batteries being added on the side of Zest, so he's just gonna want to tuck himself back in. Remember, again, those Marines do not have combat shields or stim, so this is a little bit less scary of a push than it might seem to the naked eye. Regardless, if those bunkers go up, Clem will have an amazing setup. Zest does not want to allow for that. Will lift up the tank. I don't know if that's the better choice than killing it outright with the Immortal and perhaps lifting up the Cyclones, as again, the Marines really don't have much damage output at this point.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, like you said, get rid of the tank, and it took him a little bit of extra time to do that. And a second one shows up, but he's got a disruptor, and you really don't want that to get in range of the tanks. And without, it went so far forward.
Oh God.
But he does end up cleaning this attack up. Lost, I feel, a bit more than he needed to make this cleanup as he starts a Colossus. But it's a 4-worker difference with no third base for either player. So Clem starts his 3rd CC. He still has not started Tech Labs on his barracks. So he cannot even begin Stim or Combat Shield. And I assume he's going to get those Tech Labs now, as I don't know. I would honestly consider getting a couple of bunkers at the natural area if you're worried about a counter. But he wants to stay on the aggressive without the upgrades that Terran's supposed to have to be aggressive versus Protoss Cats. I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm terrified. And yeah, you mentioned there isn't that big of a gap economically, but tech-wise, there is a huge gap, right? It's Clem that has cut so many corners. Yeah, well, exactly. There's Disruptors, a Colossus out, and there's, like you said, there's just now add-ons are being added on the side of Clem. Clem was working only off of 2 gas. That was a very, very committed attack that ultimately got cleaned up. So again, I really like Zest's position. Do not let the supply fool you here. Right, the one thing that Clem does have having for him is good upgrades. Should this game transition into the later stages, he did drop that CC a little bit earlier than the Nexus, even the 3rd CC. So Clem is in a playable position should Zest not take advantage of his tech lead at this point.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, like I was saying, Clem needs time, right? You have to get those upgrades. You cannot play Terran versus Protoss without getting Combat Shield and Stim. It's just no, right? And obviously, I'm not talking about some sort of weird mech build. He's got a bunch of barracks. He needs those upgrades to be able to fight against this Protoss force. And because it was a scrappy game, there's some other weird things like thank you, Nyal, for showing us all those shield batteries of the natural. It's gonna be harder to harass that base because of that. Those are the early game investments that are not they're not completely worthless later on. If he ends up having to defend at that point, it could be big for him. This is what I like to see, though. Focus all the defense at the primary ramp and maybe spread some stuff out later for vision. I don't know, get a sensor tower if you feel like you can squeeze it in. But we smoothly start to transition towards a more standard Terran versus Protoss mid game. As Stim finishes up and medevacs are coming out, I do expect to see Clem try to get back on the field.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, Clem, when you look at that army with an observer, it's maybe scarier than it looks. I still think that Zest maybe had some sort of a timing, but now Clem's Stim and Combat Shield has finished. So all of those units have just gained, like, doubled their strength or something like that total because they're such strong and crucial upgrades. Zest is now going to be on the defense. His chance for offense is perhaps gone at this point. It's still a very scary army on either front, especially if he catches the tanks on siege. However, this choke is not going to favor him, so he's going to be pushed back as the Marines actually choosing to go through the choke. A little bit of a mishap perhaps on the side of Clem. So Zest is going to hold this position to try and slow his opponent down. Already one of those Colossus is bruised, Nate.
Yes, and that army still clumps up very well too. As big as the Colossi are, as terrifying as they seem, they're on top of other units. So that splash damage against them is very strong. But all those shield batteries we were talking about earlier is going to overcharge it, using those shield batteries that he defended the earlier push with. But as long as the tanks are alive, so is this push for Clem. You need... I feel like you got to be working in a lot of charged zealots, try to set up a flank, but this isn't the map for that. It's more difficult to do that. And I think he's got something going out on the left side, but it does not appear to be bringing that towards the actual army. It's just going to be a counterattack with charge lots.
Yeah, and if Zest can defend here comfortably or anywhat comfortably, this counterattack could be deadly. That's a lot of zealots. There's an unsieged tank on the side of Clem and a very good position forward with his tanks and the rest of his army. The zealots are now making their way in. This is going to create chaos on either side. Let's see which player can capitalize better as Clem moves into a very strong setup, still with one Colossus to do the AoE onto those Marines. A tank will go down. 9 SCVs have gone down. Mining has been stalled at the third, and this hold is looking pretty good for Zest. He has not taken damage yet.
13 SCVs too, not bad at all. Blink starts up +2 attack, and it is always interesting to see the Protoss players that focus a little bit more on those attack upgrades, because the zealots become the mega chonkers when you get the forge spinning as often as possible on the armor, and that's where a lot of the Protoss power can come from in having these just very tanky units. But he wants the damage. He wants to rip and tear through those units, and that's why we've been seeing a lot of... He's getting double immortal now. He's adding in the Archons, going for Colossi. Those are all the units that are going to scale really well with those attack upgrades.
Yeah, especially the Colossus, even though he hasn't been producing that many more, maybe after seeing so many tanks on the side of Clem, I think he started making Immortals, and I think that was a good decision. He took down 2 tanks and there was still 3 remaining, so Clem pushed out with a total of 5 early on, and maybe Zest felt like he didn't have enough presence against those. But now Clem's army, actually, it's still a pretty good mix, right? A lot of tanks, a lot of Marauder Marine. I think that Zealots are kind of the scariest part that Clem would have to go up against with this type of composition.
Yeah, when you have this many Marauders, that's kind of why that's also another reason I was thinking about the old armor question. But Marauders don't do bonus damage or Archons either, worth pointing out. I mean, this is a mega chonk army that Zest has. It's a ton of firepower with a bajillion hit points, and another way to describe it is you could just say this is a
I don't know what this
army, I don't think you can fit the extra large burrito through the. That's you're gonna need a bigger mouth for that. I think there you go. He's gonna break open the rocks, give himself a bit more room to maneuver that gargantuan force he's commanding, and the prism on the tail end.
Oh, and it's gonna fall. Actually, what's in it? What's in it? Drop it! Oh,
okay.
Wow, Zest knew.
Unclenched. Okay, everything's okay.
Ooh, look at this though. On the north side of things, Zest is peeling off a great number of cells from his army. Actually, that is a lot. So the job of this army is now going to be to slow this smaller army down from Clem. But this should also tell Zest that there should be an army nearby to deal with these zealots. But it's actually not at the third anyway. The army is at the fourth, and these zealots are going to go to work on this SCV line if they are cleared out. However, it could be too expensive of a loss, so Zest is going to realize that and try to back away. But maybe it's better to just charge into that army before your zealot numbers go and dwindle too far down. So a few losses, not too bad on either side. But Nate, it's a crazy game. Neither player wants to lose it. It's very tense.
Yeah, he's trying to get a little sandwich action going on there, like we saw in Pillars of Gold with that army, and that's a great bait play, right? Because the zealots they're not supposed to be the most important part of your army. They can be if you don't have enough, Archons and Immortals. I think there's plenty of hit points in this force, though. I love the way that he split them, because if you, as a Protoss player, can pull the whole army up to that third, then that fourth is exposed for just a second. Well, 6 Immortals are gonna delete it in a matter of moments. And Disruptor Shot smoothly sails on by the Bio Army, just saying hello, not trying to do too much damage there.
Yeah, and here come the Zealots again. I wouldn't mind a full surround on that CC to force it to lift off and gain access to the rest of the mineral line even. Okay, these Vikings, though, unattended, are gonna get a few shots off of those Archons onto them, and that is some damage indeed. The single Disruptor trying to find some Novas to connect, but it hasn't. I almost feel like this many Marauders is a liability for Clem, and I don't know if this is like a controversial opinion or not, but given the number of Zealots and Immortals, I mean, it's so difficult for Marauders to really find their damage. If this was a composition heavier on Colossus, I could totally see it, but I don't know. The tanks maybe cover for that.
It's an awkward situation because those Vikings are exposed, but then you're like, wait a second, there's actually no Stalkers with this army. So the anti-air is limited to the 3 range that the Archons have. And yes, they do splash damage, but when you don't have Colossi with the army, it gets weird. Honestly, this whole situation's a little bit funky. He's going to try to attack this south pocket base of Zest, gets behind where those photon cannons are. They are, of course, backed up by a handful of shield batteries. No Protoss base is complete without them. And here we go, another big battering ram of Zealots to smash down that bunker at the third and then attempt to retreat. The Disruptors have not been able to really hit their marks, though, in this series here, Cats.
Yeah, it is so difficult to hit Disruptor shots against Clem of all people, but with these Ghosts in play now, they may be able to get some shots off. Of course, that is a double-edged sword, as the Ghosts are looking for the huge EMPs onto the entire army of Zest whenever he can get it. A few of these Disruptors will actually fall to the tanks, not before connecting a beautiful shot onto them. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, Zest needs to find some other tactics than running the 80 Zealots into the third base. That has not been working out. He has been now kind of pinned back into this corner, and it's looking like Clem wants to continue to advance, but here come all the Zealots to join the army, and Zest has had enough. I think this might be enough. A lot of the tanks fall right off the bat. There are no storms. However, the 2 Colossus that remained alongside these Immortals are putting up the fights of their lives. Nate, what is happening? It looks like Clem is gonna have an arc big enough to clean up. The Zealot reinforcements are gonna go forward, but it's a little bit too late. The rest of her friends have been cleaned up already.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal spread. The contain and the arc that Clem's army had there was disgusting, and I like Zest's approach. He got the DTs mixed into, brought all the Zealots back. He wanted to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. But unfortunately, if Clem is able to get a snowball going here, and I love these EMPs, yeah, you got shield batteries there that are overcharged, but they can't heal all of the Stalkers at the same time. It's enabling him to punch through these forces a little bit faster than he otherwise would, and then opening up the door, of course, for the photon cannons down the line. But man, I feel like I'm watching a Zerg versus Protoss a bit here, Cats. The way that Clem is eating the map, taking bases like it's going out of style. Yes, these Zealots are probably going to finally dislodge this now with the support of those Stalkers, but Clem, he's a rich boy, and he knows it. He's gonna be able to keep pumping out a fierce economy. 3 Disruptors are being made at a time, though, for Zest, and if there's one thing that we know in TVP, it's or actually Protoss versus whatever, Disruptor in a dream, anything is possible.
Most definitely, but yeah, like you said, I mean, it is trademark Clem to some degree. This Disruptors are not gonna connect. The second one attempts, but yeah, trademark Clem. I mean, he is not just pushing you, he's also taking advantages behind it. He's also expanding behind it. So when you're done with the push, then he's gonna be ready to defend all of those bases. And if you cannot apply pressure back onto him, he will just eat away. And it seems like what we're seeing here. It looks like Clem, unfortunately, for Zest, is gonna be taking this game, and Zest will go to the lower bracket.